Walking in a winter wonderland. Hey everybody, how's it going? It's really nice and cold out here. You guys want to see some of this nature? It's pretty epic, isn't it? I'm gonna put this book down. Maybe I can fit it in my pocket. It's just too big of a book. Maybe I'll just put it in my jacket. Yeah, but here we are in Megasoda. Beautiful, beautiful Megasoda. This is one of those it feels very Owen Benjamin-y, like to do an outdoor video. Like my caliber of videographers tries to make these weird videos all the time that are high replay value and take a lot of effort. But YouTube just wants you to churn out content. So I figured, hey, I should be making more live streams with my phone. By the way, I am shadow banned on YouTube and Google and Alphabet's platforms, also Twitter, a little low key. You can still find me there, but there was a bit of a war and a lot of accounts have fallen. But you can find me on Library and Odyssey. So look for XIRTUS Exertus and Minds.com. Go to TartaryNova.com, go to Exertus.com, join our Discord, join our communities. We're building in the alt tech there's really no alt tech, there's just successor tech. And that's what we're building, the successors for all this technology. By the way, this stream is not live. It was supposed to be, but so I went this morning to reach up to take my phone. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I mean, there's a lot of things to talk about, but I just start doing a live stream and then I'll know what to talk about. Well, I went to click live stream and it said, your account live streams have been disabled for Andreas's account. Yeah, that's the punchline right there. I mean, why? You guys know what I talk about isn't particularly heavy. I think it's just because of tracking devices and stuff. They kind of just figure there's enough people watching me that they're quality viewers, I guess. The audience, I've proven the point that the audience, who they are matters more than how many. I think. But oh, it's snowing. Isn't that awesome? The weather's, dude, nature. Anyway, yeah, it's super nice out here. Well, so that was kind of a shock. So I mean, it's not a huge deal, but it's funny because I was thinking, well, I just last night did a stream with Baked and Awake, and you should see it because we were talking about how I left Instagram because Instagram's new policies, basically WhatsApp and Instagram, I've removed from my phone, and WhatsApp I used for years, up until Facebook bought it, and I stopped using it as much, but still had it. I mean, now I basically by February 8th, the privacy policy updates say that they can record you doing whatever, which is just like, who wants that? Lydia gave me these glasses. Shout out to Tim and Lydia, all the folks. Shout out to Ian. Well, so yeah, that was really nuts because the video we made, I was saying like, I'm getting off of all of these things, and they're like, even Baked was like, oh man, how are we gonna leave these 10,000 shadow banned followers? Everyone has like hundreds of thousands or a million. I've got like 10,000, 11,000, but they're not, it's like you only get to see about 1,000 of them anyway. So I've gotten 1,000 followers on Library and I'm making 12,000 person views on some of those videos. So that's, that's what I was getting, when I first started, I was getting 1 million views and 100,000 views. And it went down to 10, 20, to 50, 20, then 10, and 1,000. So they really kind of throttled me to about 1,000 people because I think they can kind of imagine controlling the message of 1,000 people, although they're confused because those people are everywhere. So, haha. So that's, finally they're just like, that's it, and this is it. They've disabled my live streaming mobility for now. And, yesterday we were saying, well, I'm getting off of these services, they're not that great. They're like, oh my God, we're losing, this is the biggest. No, this is not this is MySpace 3 or 4.0. We've been through this a number of times. I've jumped from platform to platform many times. Like, I'm not worried about not having Facebook, a platform that didn't have, very much going for it ever. It started out as like a poor rendition of MySpace that didn't have the features of MySpace. It just had the tracking You know, like if someone doesn't dox themselves enough, spy on themselves enough, you could tag photos that you took of them, just turning everyone into East German Gestapo kind of, I don't know, it's their commissar kind of thing. Well, all right. So I was saying to Baked, to Steven, it's not a huge deal because, you know, we can, for the next few months, use the live streaming capacity of YouTube, and you know, in order to tell people, hey, come to see us on Odyssey and check out Odyssey.com, you know, and go to library adventures on the Odyssey, you know, with Andreas. Haha. That seemed like the obvious thing to do. The problem is, of course, now that they're trying to ban me from using live stream, and I tried using my other accounts, and you can't live stream with less than 1,000 people from your phone. Now I'm gonna use Brave Mobile and test that out a little bit later, because ironically my plan was to start doing this every day. I wanted to start sending out brief videos for you guys and explaining what's going on. Here, maybe I'm just gonna set up this monopod as a tripod, see if that works. You know? Yeah, dude. Nature, right? Who doesn't love nature? A little heavy though, this tripod. Turn it that way. Come on. Oh, it's just the weight. Oh, let me push you over just slightly. I believe in you. Okay. So, yeah, so basically that's funny. But I bet you with Brave, you can use the mobile version of the YouTube website to broadcast. I'm going to try that. I think if you disable the scripts that run and you set it to look like a non-mobile device, it should work. Now, I'm not sure yet, but that's why I just figured I'll just record this and you know, I'll just pretend that I'm reading your comments right now and I know who you are. Hey, Brett. What's up, Eugenie? How's it going, Queenie? Oh, man, it's Twilight Miss. 13th Monkey, good to see you. Nathan, been a long time. I could go on. Troy, come back to us. Yeah, but there's been a lot of great things going on in the Discord. And so that's been, you know, making me think, okay, we're going to continue to bring people to the new platforms. You're going to keep seeing these videos on Odyssey and on Library, even if YouTube starts falling apart. Luckily, I got that 1,000 followers that have moved over, so I'm not too worried. I think everyone needs to start preparing for this, though. I mean, I mean, that's crazy that I can't live stream. You guys are just watching me live stream the other day in an airport, eat a hamburger. Andy Warhol eats a hamburger, you know? But yeah, so I want to read this futurist text, but first thing I was going to do is talk about the 25th Amendment a bit. The 26th Amendment's interesting because Bill Clinton took a 1700s writing and established it as an amendment that had not been signed. And I think that's important to look in here too. But the 25th Amendment is the one that everyone's talking about, and that's when Kennedy died. They thought, okay, we need some sort of new power usurping for presidential. Like, what happens with the vice president? And you know, there's already been a number of cases like this, where Garfield, I think, had a stroke and he was incapacitated for 80 days. Woodrow Wilson, brain injury, was it like months? You know, he spent like 13 months or the last 17 months. Incapacitated, and not talking about like FDR was basically on his deathbed and his wife was like, yeah, he's nodding, that means yes, go for it, bomb Iraq, or was it Japan, or doesn't matter, it's World War II. I'm bored here, I want to move on to other places, so excuse me guys, neck. It's really nice out here. Find a spot I prefer even more than this. So, yeah, so you've got, like, so Garfield, Wilson, FDR, you know, like, a lot of bad stuff happened. So when Kennedy died, they were concerned about how the powers would, you know, transfer. Actually, I think there's another one, President Tyler. He took over when the president died, and he didn't want to even vow as president. He wanted to stay as vice president serving, but act as president. But they still had him do it. But there was the President Tyler precedent, I think it was called. History class. So when the 25th Amendment was enacted, it's very useful for what is the first fully transparently non-elected president. I mean, obviously we've got people throwing in false votes since the 1800s, 1700s, but what was interesting about, Nixon eventually, when he has to step down, his vice president resigns under, a court case. New vice president comes in, Ford. Ford becomes the president when the acting president Nixon resigns, and then his new vice president is selected by the Republican Party's Rockefeller. So Rockefeller becomes a serving vice president, and Ford becomes the president without any election. Very interesting. One of the more interesting presidents, Ford. He's in the same vein as George W. Bush, a theatrical Yale-trained clown, like an actual jester, like a really, dancing, kind of like a Polynesian theater style, physical comedy, falling down stairs, trying to look like he doesn't know what's going on. Clever stuff. For a California boy, this weather is cold on my hands. It's a bummer. Well, okay. So the 25th Amendment is pretty important because it's supposed to be about medical issues, but it's vague. The terminology is vague on purpose because it's in the long run, it is a political decision to impeach the president, and the wording has more to do with being incapable to act as president, which, let's say you're banned on social media and no one can hear it from you. You're incapable of acting as president. And, this is like, there's a lot of people talking about, take it from me, in deepfake technology. You can listen to cadence in a video and wonder if it's a real video. And there's a lot of people wondering about that, about some videos that are out right now. I don't want to go too far because I've already, clearly I'm already in more trouble than it's worth to tell you guys what's happening, but go look into that. And by the way, I hope you're following me on the other networks, I'll say again, because this is just, we're making these videos mainly to get you to go over to the places where you can see us talk about what's really happening. But yeah, there's some news out there you're watching that's not real. Like, I don't mean just fake news. I mean digitally synthesized by my kinds of software news, where, it sounds like somebody this looks like someone you've heard of, but you're not there, and you can kind of tell that there's minimal amounts of movement to both the animation as well as to the voices. Like, as crazy as that sounds to some people, I think we're far past that. So, we're on a good spot. It's more beautiful. These trees, they're just so pretty. And they were so confused about the weather because it was so sunny here up until Christmas morning when it finally snowed. So you got some really pretty colors. Well, the 25th Amendment, vague terminology, could be used to remove an acting president who refuses to give up either because of, at the time I was thinking mental incompetence, refuses to abdicate. So you could just take it from them, especially if they're, unable to sign because they're in a coma and they're hoping modern medicine would outstep that. But the 25th Amendment is not meant to be used for, a circumstance like this, in a double impeachment in one presidential term. It's pretty impressive. Like, it kind of goes to show you that they're running out of ideas. And, despite how bad it looks, you have to remember, most of you are isolated at home watching this stuff on a monopolized private property platform. So, yeah, of course it looks the way it's being presented on those platforms. That's why we're stepping off of those platforms. And I've been for years, in other pools of thought. So for me, it's not that big of a deal. I'm not like, oh, wow, what Twitter says is true, what the news says is true. But I think we're back there. We're back at that point where people think, the news is true. It's not, I don't watch news on TV. It's like the same kind of logic. Like, I don't watch Fox. I don't watch CNN. I watch the other one. Like, I watch news on the internet, so it's true. It's like, well, You haven't seen the internet in a few years, man. It's not really the internet anymore. I mean, we're trying to bring the internet back. Okay, well, it's pretty cold. I want a place where I can set up the stick for a second, and then I can read you this excerpt from this book. One second. Into the snow we go. Whoa. Follow the dog's steps. Follow the dog steps. Deep into the snow we go. Alright. And then, see if I just wipe off some of this. Okay. Alright. Now I'm trying to read this without freezing to death. Wait, this isn't the right one. Thought you had... Oh boy. Okay. Pause for a second while I find the chapter. Okay, this is a book that kind of talks about what's happening right now. So, chapter 9, skipping to the end. When the last embers of the great conflagration of the rebellion had smothered out with tears for the lost cause, a prophecy had gone up in the mighty north, rich with 100 great cities and strong in the conscious power of its wide empire. It would be next to raise the standard of rebellion against the federal government. But the prophet was without honor in his own land, and none had paid heed to his seemingly wild words. Okay, I mean, we'll skip just to the next part, and I really hope that you guys bother to read that ever. But there we go. Somewhere after 11 o'clock, an ominous silence sank. Can you read me? Sank upon the opposing camps. The Republican leaders could be seen conferring together nervously. It was a sacred hour of night, this thrice sacred for the great republic. Not only a new year, but a new century was about to break open upon the world. A strange hush crept over the turbulent house, and still its even more turbulent galleries. The Republican leader rose to his feet. His voice sounded cold and hollow. Strong men shivered as they listened. Mr. Speaker, we have done our duty to our country. We have nothing more to say, no more blows to strike. We cannot stand here within the sacred precincts of this chamber and see our rights as freemen trampled beneath the feet of the majority. We have striven to prevent the downfall of the Republic, like men sworn to battle against wrong and tyranny. But there comes a time when blank despair seizes upon the hearts of those who struggle against overwhelming odds. That hour has sounded for us. We believe our people, the great, generous people of the North, will cry unto us, "Well done and good, faithful servants. If we do wrong, let them condemn us. We, every man of us, Mr. Speaker, have but this moment sworn to not stand within this chamber and witness the passage of this act. Therefore we go." "Not so, my countrymen," cried a clear, metallic, far-reaching voice that sounded through the chamber with an almost supernatural ring to it. In an instant, every head was turned, and thousands of voices burst out with suppressed force. "The President! The President!" In truth, it was he, standing at the bar of the house, wearing the visage of death rather than of life. The next instant of the house and gallery burst into deafening clamor, which rolled up and back in mighty waves that shook the very walls. There was no stilling it, again and again bursting forth the mingling of 10,000 words, howling, rumbling, and groaning like the warring elements of nature. Several times the president stretched forth his great white hands, appealing for silence, while the dew of mingled dread and anguish beaded on his brow and trickled down his cheeks in liquid supplication that his people might either slay him or listen to him. The tumult stilled his fury for a moment, and he could be heard saying brokenly, "My countrymen, oh my countrymen," but the quick sharp sounds of the gavel cut him short. "The president must withdraw," said the speaker, calmly and coldly. "His presence here is a menace to our free deliberation." Again the tumult set up its deafening roar, while a look of almost horror overspread the countenance of the chief magistrate. see, this is let's see. I'm gonna keep going. There's a little bit of snow there falling on me. Once more his great white hands were heavenward, pleading for silence with such a mute majesty of supplication that silence fell upon the immense assemblage, and his lips moved not in vain. Gentlemen of the House of Representatives, I stand here upon my just and lawful right as President of the Republic to give you information of the state of the Union. I have summoned the Honorable Senate to meet me in this chamber. I call upon your calm passions and give ear to me as your oath of office sets the sacred obligation upon you. There was a tone of godlike authority in these few words, almost divine, enough to make the winds obey, and still the tempestuous of seas. In deepest silence and with certain shades of rude and native grandeur of bearing, the senators made their entrance into the chamber, the members of the House rising and the speakers advancing to meet the Vice President. The spectacle was grand and moving. Tears gathered in the eyes long unused to them, and at almost imperceptible nod of the President's head, the chaplain raised his voice in prayer. He prayed in accents that were so gentle and so persuasive, they must have turned the hardest hearts to blessed thought of peace and love and fraternity and union. And then, again, all eyes were fixed with intensest strain upon the face of the President. Gentlemen of the House of Representatives, this measure upon which you are now deliberating with a sudden blow that startled every living soul within its... Oh boy. Nice and cold in Minnesota, eh? It just seems so scenic. Gentlemen of the House, the measure upon which you are now deliberating with a sudden blow that startled every living soul within its hearing. The Speaker's gavel fell. The President, said he, with a superb dignity that called down from the galleries, bursting of deafening applause, must not make reference to pending legislation. The Constitution guarantees him the right, from time to time, to give to the Congress information of the Union. He must keep himself strictly within the lines of that constitutional limit, or withdraw from the bar of the House. A deadly pallor overspread the face of the Chief Magistrate, until it seemed he must sink, and then there into the sleep which he knows no awakening. He gasped and leaned forward. He raised his hand again imploringly. As he did so, the bells of the city began to toll at the hour of midnight. The new year, the new century, was born. But with the last stroke, a fearful thunderous discharge, as though 1,000 monstrous pieces of artillery shook the capital to its very foundation, making the stoutest hearts stand still, and the blanching cheeks that had never known the coward color. The dome of the Capitol had been destroyed by dynamite. In a few moments, when it had been seen that the chamber had suffered no harm, the leader of the House moved to the final passage of the act. The President was led away, and the Republican senators and representatives passed slowly out of the disfigured Capitol, while the tellers prepared to take the vote of the House. The bells were ringing a glad welcome to the new century. But a solemn tolling would have been a fitter thing, for the Republic of Washington was no more. It had died so peacefully that the world could not believe the tidings of its passing away. As the dawn broke cold and gray, and its first dim light fell upon the shattering dome, glorious even in its ruin, a single human eye, filled with a gleam of devilish joy, looked upon long and steadily that house, and then its owner was caught up and lost in the surging mass of humanity that held the Capitol girt round and round. Well, that's The Last President by Ingersoll Lockwood, 1901, 1899. Now, I've been saying for years you got to read Baron Trump, Marvelous Underground Journey, because I think that actually matters more right now. But you shouldn't be too surprised what's happening. You should have already seen this coming, you know. I don't mean like shoulda, coulda, woulda, but it's like, it's not rocket science what's going on. They're going to affect the public opinion and try to make it look like, I mean, you know, after a year of ultra violent protests, rapes and murders and fires, that this one day was the unforgivable offense, that everything else was totally peaceable and needed to be heard. But now that the other 70 million or 75 million or something sided argument wants to be heard, that it needs to be silenced. And the problem with that is when you silence peaceable opinions, you know, and redress of grievances, when you silence verbal redress of grievances, then you open the door for those grievances to expand their demands and also their intensity. So I mean to say, verbal altercations are better than violence, in my opinion. And it seems that when you don't have an option for the first, you go to the second, right? Like if you have to redress a grievance and you're not being heard, you start yelling. And if yelling's not working, people start throwing down. So, you know, it seems pretty obvious that this is intentional because these people study marketing psychology. It's like, of course, this is what happens when you do that. But modifying behavior, I guess you could think, you get enough people, this next generation, that are having their behavior modified because you're telling them, you know, they're not supposed to talk about these things to those people, and so they get their accounts, you know, silenced and whatever, that they're hoping that the next generation will get it, that like they're going to be socially isolated if they're not willing to conform to the status quo. But I don't see that as practical because I'm already in other pools and other buckets. And, you know, they might say, oh, they're going to take the app off of your Android store or Play Store. Go download the app, go Google it, you know, or DuckDuckGo. Like, use, you know, do you type in pure APK? APK is the Android app's name. So I don't even know how to jailbreak and all that with the Apple stuff, but I know that if you have Xcode, you can just copy an app and run it through there. So theoretically, that's fine. And this is why we're moving towards HTML solutions anyway. You should be able to go on a website and it should work, right? So that's a big part of what, you know, the apps shouldn't just be apps anyway. You don't want it to be, it should be HTML. It should be like hypertext, like on the internet where it belongs, you know, all running through virtualization. So, okay. So we're talking about that. Just wanted you to know, though, that for the most part, what you're starting to see around you on your social media network, it's only going to get worse. So do share this video. Do reach out. Do find me on Odyssey and Library. Go on Minds, you know, and if you can, for the meantime, yeah, follow me on Twitter and stuff just so that you can help other people find their way off of those networks. But we're definitely moving towards a full-on John Galt future where we're moving to a new world. So, yeah, and I hope you enjoyed that little read of Ingersoll Lockwood and walking around in nature. And let's call it a day. But I'm gonna keep putting videos out like this one way or another. So, you know, like, but yeah, what the heck, right? I'm not supposed to live stream. Shame on me. What did I even say? Recent Tartarians.